Hi guys. If you made it this far, congrats. You're truly a Rails enthusiast. Today in part 3 of my Rails 8 chat app series, the documentation walkthrough. I didn't say it last time, but when it comes to documentation, I've got the same love-hate, or is it hate-love, relationship as many of you. Tests fail. They always take longer than expected. And documentation? It's outdated the moment you hit save and change your code. And honestly, code, naming conventions, folder and file structure, with a few meaningful comments, that should be enough. That's kind of the documentation, right? So why bother documenting at all? Fair question. But remember Candy? That's the project where I work together with AI. Yeah, exactly. AI, sometimes incredibly smart, other times lazy, unfocused, loses context, small context window, knowledge cutoffs, you name it. Parts 1 and 2 showed how I like to structure my app, but there were so many times when AI missed the bigger picture. So I asked my AI teammates, how would you like to be guided? And we went wild with it, but that's another story to tell. These docs are kind of an excerpt from Candy. They help feed AI up front with task-specific guidelines, so it generates code the way I like it. So yeah, documentation gets a different kind of purpose here. The doc/readme.md is just an overview with links to architecture and testing guidelines, plus a few Mermaid diagrams. If you look at the markdown source, you'll see frontmatter with YAML metadata. This helps my AI teammates process the files and helps me track which model works best for which tasks. The rest is pretty standard markdown. Table of contents, some tables, and always a related resources section at the end. That way, we know what's important and we keep up to date with external references too. Let's start with the diagrams. I discovered Mermaid after watching a video from David Andre, which led me to the Cursor forum, and from there to a great article by Ravi Kiran Vemula, The Ultimate Guide to AI-Powered Development with Cursor. I scrolled down and found my first Mermaid. Now, I use them to check whether AI understood the codebase, and also just for fun. We've got the data model diagram, the Rails application architecture diagram. Looks pretty nice, right? Let me know what you think in the comments. The testing pyramid diagram, a quick draft from GPT 4.1. Not super valuable maybe, but hey, it took 30 seconds to generate. And the architecture testing integration diagram. Oh boy, this one's dense. Honestly, I'm not even sure AI got everything right there. Since we're already in the testing context, let's look at the testing README. You've seen this one already, early in part 2. The folder structure, naming conventions, how to run tests. Let's dive into the controller testing guidelines. Table of contents. Check, overview, with a flowchart for choosing the right test type. Section 2, quick start. Naming conventions, FactoryBot, how to describe tests, handling I18N and Flash implicitly, and TurboStream assertions. There's also folder structure and when to use controller tests. Section 5 covers common patterns, naming conventions for those patterns, and examples. Related resources, check. If I like how things are structured, I stick to it. So the integration testing guidelines are very similar. Overview, quick start, folder structure, common patterns, conventions, flow examples, resources. In the model testing guidelines, I realize now, there's no quick start, noted. But structure and philosophy is there, and that's good enough for now. Though, yeah, this one needs to be aligned better with the others. Why did I call a section concern coverage? And do I really need section 7? Anyway, let's jump to the system testing guidelines before I stop recording and update those model docs. This one's better. Overview, check. Folder structure, check. Quick start, wait, missing. But when to use and common patterns are back. Phew. Lots of patterns covered here. Keyboard navigation, accessibility. Naming conventions use the term resource, like in resource create with clicktest.rb. That's to keep it framework agnostic-ish. I'll see how that plays out with AI. The testing glossary is self-explanatory. Not sure how valuable it is, but it's there. Change of subject, the architecture README. You'll find the technical overview linked here. Technology stack, which will change soon thanks to Dependabot. Some architectural patterns, Tailwind, security practices, development workflow. Haven't used Miz before? The Install Ruby on Rails guide will show you how. Quick note, I run this app on port 344 instead of Rails default 3000 to avoid conflicts with other apps. Back to the README. This is our gateway to all other guidelines. The controller architecture guidelines are like a blueprint for me and my teammates. There's an important section on strong parameters. Most AI models won't handle that correctly unless you point it out directly. The rest is self-explanatory. Response handling, flash messages, the current object, which lets me write current user just like I did with devise, error handling, custom actions, and a quick summary. The model guidelines explain model structure, using concerns, normalization, validations, and everything else we already covered in parts 1 and 2. Now scrolling through the stimulus guidelines. Yeah, this one needs some attention. The controller registration section is for my teammate Claude 3.7 inside cursor using the API. It says, I'm familiar with Rails 8 features, though my training cutoff, April 2023, means my knowledge is supplemented by the project documentation. Good to know, mate. I also have dedicated stimulus guidelines for components and dispatching. The base controller is an important concept to highlight. The rest is just good to know. Speaking of stimulus components, I explain how they're structured in the JavaScript //controllers folder, how names are handled, especially when folders lead to double dashes. You saw my stimulus controller style in part 1. I like my little sections, and now AI knows how to please me. The guidelines give a quick overview of targets, multiple actions, values, and a sneak peek into cross-component communication. There's also a section on common components and a link to the stimulus testing guidelines. Nice. Following that link takes us to the stimulus dispatch guidelines. This one's important. Until now, none of the AIs I've used were able to create the correct dispatch syntax by default, only with a reference link and explicit instructions. So this doc is here to guide them, without links or extra prompting. Besides the example from the official stimulus reference, I also provide a basic example showing how dispatch is used in this project. That leaves us with the last one, Turbo Architecture Guidelines. The core patterns section explains turbo drive, turbo frames, turbo streams, available actions, how to test turbo, and related testing conventions. AIs love conventions, patterns, and markdown. That being said, I think I'm done with part 3. I'll leave you with a cliffhanger. While recording, I thought of a small additional feature, using the copy to clipboard example from the stimulus reference to copy the chat name. So stay tuned. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment if you liked this. Greetings from Hamburg, Andy.